The pitch from Acevedo.
Swung on the line, down the left field line for a base hit.
Fly ball, gap, right center field. And
Double him up at second.
Luke is going back to the 1-8 track. Get out the right, run and Buster Grandma. It is grand salami time.
will send Seattle to the American League Championship Series for the first time in 24 years.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Light the W podcast, episode 185 of the show. Let's get into it. I'm recording this 11:20 p.m. Tuesday, July 21st. The Mariners just dropped Game 2 to the Cincinnati Reds in frustrating fashion. They picked up Game 1 behind the back of George Kirby, who threw 6 strong innings. And the Mariners were able to score 8 runs, including a grand slam from the dumper himself. It was a huge home run. The Mariners needed it. They then transitioned to Tuesday. It's a tough pitching matchup. Luis Castillo versus Chase Burns. And the Mariners do their job, actually, against Chase Burns. They get him out of the game and are able to face the Reds bullpen, which is a bullpen that is able to be God. It is a bullpen that you should be able to score off of. Burns goes 5 innings, gives up just 3 hits, doesn't give up a run, 2 walks, 6 strikeouts. The Mariners then face the bullpen for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th innings. The Reds throw their best arms. TJ Anton, Brock Burke, Emilio Pagan through, Julian Garcia, who's been good, and Sam Mole all through in this game. Mole throws in a third of an inning. Burke throws a third of an inning. Garcia throws an inning, and Pagan throws an inning. TJ Anton. This might be where the Mariners won and lost this game. Through an inning and a third, gave up just 1 hit, 1 walk, and an earned run. And the Mariners should have scored more here. I mean, it's pretty simple, right? Other than the Weston Wilson home run, they weren't able to score off of him. Julio Rodriguez gets robbed by Elly De La Cruz, and the first batter that Anton faced. But this is a guy that, has had 2 Tommy John surgeries in the past 4 years. We talked about it on Monday's episode. Yeah, this is a guy that has had 2 Tommy John surgeries in 2022 and 2024, and he just came back this year. This doesn't seem like an arm that the Reds would want to pitch, but he throws 30 pitches. He's been their best reliever, and he does his job ultimately, right? He kept this game at a place where the Reds were able to win it. And the Mariners weren't able to do their job against him. Raleigh has a huge at-bat, right? And he had 2 walks, right? He has a huge at-bat. And then Josh Naylor comes up after a walk. Cal works a good walk. And it's like, come on, Naylor. This is the chance for you to come through. And even in a 3-hit game for Naylor, which I guess actually went under the radar for me, it just couldn't quite come through in the big opportunity the Mariners need. But I want to say something about Luis Castillo. He gave up 3 runs. It was a little bit frustrating, right? He missed a couple pitches. He hung a couple pitches. But if Luis Castillo gives me 7 innings, giving up just 4 hits, 2 walks with 3 strikeouts, and gives up just 3 earned runs every start, I'm jolly. I'm jolly. One of my frustrations with Castillo is that he doesn't get deep into games. But he threw 7 innings. That is plenty enough to be able to win this ball game. Right, and if you were facing any one of the other Red starters, maybe except for Hunter Green, I think you were able to win this game. I think you do win this game. But look, there's 50 games that you should win, 50 games that you should lose, and then there are 62 games, right, that up and determine the season. This feels like one of those 62 games. This feels like a game you should have been able to get. This feels like a game you should have got. And whether it's because of TJ Anton going inning and a third and really shutting you down and getting the Reds out of a big fire, right? Whether it's that, or whether it's the thing I'm going to talk about here in a minute, this really felt like it was a game the Mariners should be able to come back. Right? This felt like it should have been a win. And I actually think the Mariners, over the past 3 days heading into Tuesday, have been playing a lot better baseball. Right? They've been fighting. They've been hitting the ball a little bit better. They've obviously been pitching. Their defense has been, here and there a little bit, but it's been good enough. It's been good enough, right? Especially on Monday night. And you enter Tuesday, and it's like, all right, chance to win 4 straight here, chance to win back-to-back series coming out of the break, right? It's to really continue this momentum that we've continued to build, and then, you drop the final game of the series, and you're like, whatever. And then you get Thursday off, and you had to do a huge series with Texas. And it felt like the cards were all aligning for a big comeback, a big opportunity. And it just didn't happen. It really felt like it was gonna. The energy inside the ballpark felt like it was gonna. There were moments that it felt like a little bit of a playoff atmosphere. It felt like a late September playoff push atmosphere. The crowd all on their feet for that Cal Raleigh payoff pitch, for the Naylor at bat. It was almost like the crowd was willing this team into it. And I think they would have gotten it done. You got through the heart of that bullpen. You got Emilio Pagan, who entered the day with a 6.23 ERA and has struggled as a closer for the Reds this year and has been part of the reason why they aren't as good as some people thought they would be at the start of the year, or as good as they could be right now. Part of that's due to Emilio Pagan. And it felt like the opportunity was there. You had Young, Randy, and Canzone coming up. It felt like that opportunity was just going to be there. It felt like you were going to be able to score a run and at least send it to extras and show some fight, whether you lost it in extras or you won it. It was a game that I think you could be happy about. But your manager does something to me that's unforgivable. You won Saturday and Sunday's games coming back into them. You won Monday's game by scoring late runs to add on and be able to use some of those bottom 3 bullpen arms when you didn't have your top guys available. The entire group of high leverage bullpen arms that the Mariners have available to them, were available tonight. They all didn't pitch yesterday. Ferrer had 2 days off. He will be available tomorrow, surely. And I want to start this off by saying I didn't want to have to come onto this episode or any episode here in the future and say that the Mariners lost partially or majority because of a Dan Wilson decision. And I still don't know if that's what it is. Emotionally reacting, it feels that way. Being in the ballpark, it felt that way. There was an air that was sucked out of the crowd. As soon as the home run was given up in the top of the ninth inning, people started leaving. The crowd hadn't left prior to that. It just, the air, in the building, it felt like there was this belief in this team that they're going to come back. They're going to do it. They're going to fight. They're going to win this game. That I don't know if I felt about this team since 2022, even. I don't know if it was a vibe I got from the team last year, even. It was like, nothing can stop this team. And that's where the frustration for me comes from. Look, you should have scored more earlier in the game. You should have cashed in on more opportunities. Ultimately, it wasn't good enough in those scenarios. Right? That part is, all of those things are true. But for a team that prides itself on its pitching, I don't know how you could enter the ninth inning down just 1 run after all that fighting back, scoring a run in the 7th, scoring a run in the 8th, with the top of your lineup up against a closer that has really struggled. It felt like it was all there for you, right? It felt like the opportunity was there. And you went 1 for 10 with runners in scoring position. Yes, you left 10 guys on base. Yes, you made an error in the field. It was a Ferrer pickoff move. But, well, I can understand not wanting to go to Munoz in the 9th inning. Why are Gabe Spire and Edward Bizardo on the team if they're not being thrown into that situation? Why are you using Jose Ferrer in the 8th inning if you know that you're not going to want to throw one of the other two guys unless the game is tied or you have the lead? I understand looking at tomorrow and knowing that tomorrow is a big game and knowing that you want to be able to win tomorrow if you drop tonight's game, that you want to have your bullpen arms available. But you have an off day Thursday. You have a built-in rest date for all of these bullpen arms. We're at the point in the season now where you need to be able to throw these guys if you have a third-year bullpen you don't trust and that you can't use in leverage situations. And I understand, again, not using Munoz, but why was it not Bizardo? Why was it not Spire? Even Ferrer, he threw 14 pitches. Why not see if he can get another out or two? But instead, you use one of the three arms in this bullpen right now that I just don't have belief in. And of those three guys, the guy I believe in the least, the guy I think is the worst of them, the guy that I would have never throw into that situation in the entire bullpen, is the guy you choose, who threw last night in the 9th inning of an 8-0 game. If you're going to use one of those three guys, use Nick Davila. He's been the best one. And the justification for it was that, quote, Ruck had a good game yesterday. He threw the ball well yesterday. Dan, the game was 8-0. The Reds know they lost. They just want to get to the hotel, get on the bus, and get out of the ballpark. I can't even wrap my head around this decision. And he gives off a leadoff bomb in the top of the 9th. Air is sucked out of the building. Air is sucked out of the team. Full wind in their sails. Reverses. And from going north, you're going south. And I don't want to bash Dan Wilson. I don't want to hate on Dan Wilson. I really don't. I don't want to be that guy that much. And I've done it too much for what I want to be. Well, this one is unforgivable. To sweep a series, you have to steal a game. To win a series, sometimes you have to steal a game. To gain momentum, you have to steal a game. And whether or not you believe in momentum in sports, it is a real thing. A win tonight, a comeback win tonight, game where you showed fight, a game where you were able to do it, where you faced their best starter, one of the best starters in the National League, one of the best starters in baseball, and you were able to win it by getting him out of the game and battling and getting to their bullpen and getting into their bullpen and battling against their bullpen and scoring runs off their bullpen and having your bullpen shut it down and Luis Castillo having a good enough start. And Julio Rodriguez coming off the bench and what looked like it should have been an RBI single robbed by Ellie, but then he mashes a home run to get them within one run going to the 9th inning. It blows my mind going to Michael Rucker there. I'm sitting here. It's 11:30 right now. This game ended around 9:30. We're 2 hours after, and I can't wrap my head around it. I can't make it make sense. That's all I got for tonight's game. That's all I want to talk about. Let's move on a little bit. All right. I want to briefly talk about the deadline. All right. And listening to Brockett talk this morning, they were with Jeff Passan, and the question that came out of it for me was, is this a year? Is this the year to go in at the deadline? Is this the team to go in on? Is this the 26 guys to go in proof? my Mariners love really blossomed in 2019. The Mariners decided to start the rebuild, and I was able to watch these guys as a younger kid myself, watch these guys grow into big leaguers, watch guys come up. Julio Rodriguez, Kyle Lewis, who I'm repping on the back of my jersey. I remember those games in late 2019. I remember watching those games. The homer off Trevor Bauer, I remember the COVID year and Kyle Lewis and Evan White, Justice Sheffield, right? Like, I remember all these things. I remember Jared Kelnick's debut and Logan Gilbert's debut, George Kirby's debut, Bryce Miller's debut, Brian Wu's debut, Julio Rodriguez's debut. I remember watching him at spring training in 2022. I remember all these things. This team means so much to me. And all the people around me. I love this team. And when I look at the past, when I look at the history of this team, when I think about how I grew up around this team in the 2010s, the past 50 years of Mariners baseball have been celebration of moments, have been celebration of specific players, have been celebration of winning the division and making the ALCS. It's been coming back against the Blue Jays in the wild card series. It's been Jorge Polanco walking off against the Tigers. It's been getting within one win of the World Series after a homer from Gino Suarez. It's been the double. It's been Ken Griffey Jr., Ichiro, Felix, the big unit, Edgar, Julio, Kyle Seager, James Pack. It's been these things. Robinson Cano. It hasn't been championships. It hasn't been an American League pennant. That's what I want. We're 50 years in. We haven't had it. I want that. You look at the American League. If this team can be the best team in the American League, this team can go compete against anyone in baseball. And you just need your stars to be stars. You just need your guys to be your guys. Some of them seem to be coming around. So how do you improve your floor? To me, you look at the market and there's not that many guys that you can go all in on. Mason Miller's been thrown around, obviously. He's that guy. But this is a year that can you get uncomfy with a trade? Can you make a trade like Luis Castillo where you traded Noelvi Marte and Edwin Arroyo that was uncomfy at the time when you did it, but it was exciting. You got one of the best starters on the market, if not the best starter on the market, that one of your AL opponents wanted so badly and pushed you to the postseason. Now, can you get a guy that will push you to the World Frickin' Series? Can you get an Adrian Morejon? Can you get a Mason Miller? Can you get a Yenny Arcano? Can you get a Rico Garcia? Can you get a Julio Ramos? A Casey Schmidt? Alongside one of those? Can you get crazy and go get something huge? Can you do something shocking? You got the rotation, you got the youth, you got the farm system to trade from. Get better at the deadline, get uncomfy. I think this is a year that you should make that push. You should make that trade. You should try to get this team over the hump. Guy I want to talk about today, and the thing I want to talk about today very briefly because we've already spent a lot of time, is the bench. And improving the bench, improving the floor of this team. If you can get a guy that is Robles-esque, speedy, can steal bases, can play all over the outfield, who maybe can hit a little bit, can you get that guy? And I go look at Coors Field, go look at the Rockies, and I go look at a 28-year-old outfielder who, while a left-handed hitter, has had reverse splits this year. Has been up and down in his career, but has been good away from Coors. Has 99th percentile sprint speed, second in all of baseball only to Bobby Witt Jr., who hasn't struck out a lot, who has a higher average, who puts the ball in play. and who has 2.5 years of control. Can you go get Jake McCarthy? Can you go get the Rockies to bite? They're going to be trading anybody and everybody they can. I think you could go get this guy, and I think he could make sense. Can you go get Jake McCarthy in a trade and then flip Luke Raley in another trade and go get your bullpen arms and even go get a right-handed hitting outfielder maybe? You can change this team by adding players on the bench and then having a bench of guys that maybe some of them are starting your team right now, but if you can bring them off the bench as pinch hitters, it changes the look of this team. It makes you dangerous. It gives you depth. You can work through injuries when they happen. Those are things you should be excited for. Those are things you should be looking to do. This isn't the deadline where you're going to go get a Josh Naylor, where you're going to go get a Luis Castillo, where you're going to go get even a Gino Suarez with what he looked like last year. You're not going to be able to get that guy. But can you improve this team? Can you give this team a boost? Can you give this team a confidence? Can you get the stars going and have some depth behind them, have some speed on the bench? Give yourself more ways to win. I think Jake McCarthy can do that, and I think this could be a really interesting guy for the Mariners to go acquire, especially if they can go trade Luke Raley in another deal. McCarthy is not as good of a hitter as Raley, but he's an average to above average defender, which would improve on what the Mariners have, and he's freaking lightning quick, and he can steal bases. He's just 28, and he hits for higher average. I think he makes so much sense. And I think he'd be a really fun fit for the Mariners. Is he perfect? No, nobody's perfect. I've already said this. Nobody's going to be perfect at this deadline. But if you go get him, you go get a right-handed hitting player, you go get a bullpen arm, whether it's a Mason Miller, a Yenny, or Cano, Rico Garcia, Adrian Morejon. This team can do damage. This team can do things that we haven't seen them do. And that's what I want. That's what I want this team to be. That's what I want this team to do. Okay. All right. Let's continue moving through this episode. It's a Wednesday episode. So let's do our ting here, and let's start with...
This is Around the Horn. 4 updates on Major League Baseball over the past week.
All right. So let's start with Around the Horn. Let's talk about Major League Baseball. Mariners half game back now in the American League West with the loss tonight. They're 51-51. Ichiro, Randy Johnson, you should be happy. Houston Astros are now just 2.5 games back of you. The Angels have won 3 straight games. But the biggest thing in baseball is that the Red Sox have won 14 straight games and jettisoned themselves above the Mariners into the 3rd wild card spot and look like a team that is dangerous. With the Yankees continue to scuffle a little bit, and the Rays continuing to scuffle a little bit, this is a team to watch. This is a team that I think might buy at the deadline and go get something to improve this team. I think that they should be one to watch. In that division, Toronto Blue Jays, not sure we can declare you dead yet, but 12.5 back of the Rays. You guys don't look great. You're 6 back of a wild card spot. You're the 4th worst team in the American League. Congratulations on your pennant last year. Not actually. Screw you. Dodgers back with the best record in baseball after Tuesday night. The Cubs are solidified in the number 1 seed of the wild card 1 in the National League. They're 57-44. How about them Cubbies? Giants have lost 4 straight, continuing to scuffle. The Marlins have lost 8 straight games since they played the Mariners. Why couldn't you have done that against the Mariners? That's my question. Let's move on.
It is time for Seattle Sports Wraparound with Mahal.
All righty. Seattle Sports Wraparound. Spain won the World Cup. Congratulations, Argentina. You didn't play like winners. You played like losers. Congratulations on 2nd place. Love you, Messi. You were my favorite player growing up. You're still one of my favorite players of all time. But what you and your teammates did on that field was a disgrace to football, was a disgrace to the beautiful game, was a disgrace to the World Cup. None of that. Paredes, what are you doing? Enzo Fernandez, what are you doing? Romero, what are you doing? Even Messi, what are you doing? Let Cucurella do his little thing. Come on. The Sounders returned. That's the most exciting part of that. What's the Sounders game over the weekend? And let's see, how do I keep this as nice as possible? That was probably the worst loss in the MLS era of the Sounders. And you did it against your rivals where you looked flat. It was almost as if Dan Wilson was managing that team. Shocking, baffling. It was incredible. What an experience. Really doing your thing there. Let's move on again.
Welcome to Down on the Farm, your weekly segment talking about the Mariners farm system over the past week.
Love my little chicken there. Promotions. They finally happened. Obviously, Laz Montez, Michael Arroyo got promoted a few weeks ago. They've looked great so far, for the most part, in AAA, especially Arroyo. He's been getting shouts from multiple media members and fans about potentially getting promoted to the big league club at some point later this year. Will that happen? A little bit more on the unknown. But Johnny Farmelo with a home run tonight in AA. Felnine Celestin also promoted to AA. I'll also mention that Lucas Kelly got promoted to AA, as did Josh Caron, a catching prospect. A lot of interesting things there. Corbin Dickerson now in Everett. Make sure you go see him. As is that one guy, Brendan Donovan, on his rehab in Everett. Go see him this week. Go see the GOAT, the legend. The future Mariner? Former Mariner? I don't really know what he is at this point. I guess he's a current Mariner. Can't wait for him to come back, go back to the leadoff spot, have Cole Young hitting seventh, eighth spot, ninth spot in the lineup. This lineup, when healthy, is really, really exciting. I'm really looking forward to hopefully having them healthy at some point. Will it ever happen? Remains to be seen. Exactly why I need to continue to make moves. Trade deadline continues to loom closer. Get excited. We're really getting back into this team, ready to watch each and every single day. Past 2 days at the ballpark have been awesome, great vibes. That Cal moment, it was amazing. And it seemed like we were bound for another moment tonight, but it didn't happen. Let's get the series on Wednesday. Emerson Hancock on the bump. Let's get the good Hancock here. Hopefully it's not his last start in a Mariners uniform, and not his last start at T-Mobile Park. Any one of these three guys that pitched against the Reds this week, it could have been their last start at the Mob. Hopefully not, though, because we love all of them, even you, Luis. Thank you for 7 innings of 3-run ball tonight. Let's go get the series. Tomorrow, have a nice off day in Texas. Big series starting Friday. Jeff and I will be with you on Friday morning to talk about all of that. Till then, as always, go Imps. Peace.